Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Belle again, and welcome to The Roads with Belle. Today is February 16th, 2025, and this is episode 78 of The Roads Not Taken, which is a weekly series where we go over the news that was unreported, underreported, didn't get the coverage we felt that it should, or we just found it interesting. And then we go over a few questions from y'all. Today is February 16th, and it's Kyoto Protocol Day. That was the first binding international agreement on greenhouse gas emissions. And on this date in 1923, King Tut's tomb was opened. And starting with foreign policy, Zelensky called for the creation of a European army to counter Russia. The fact that this wasn't immediately shot down by European nations is something that should be a warning sign to the United States. We'll probably delve a bit deeper into this week. The USS Harry S. Truman bumped into a merchant ship in the Med. The term used to describe was bumped. Getting bumped by an aircraft carrier is still a big deal. Ukraine rejected Trump's proposal over mineral rights. The King of Jordan once again rejected Trump's Gaza plan, and resistance to it is galvanizing the Middle East. Saudi Arabia seems to be taking a lead to come up with an Arab plan to counter Trump. An emergency summit has been called over Trump in Europe. In U.S. news, Trump fired the U.S. Aid Inspector General after a report detailing what Trump's policies are doing. 17 states are suing to end protections for students with special needs. The Wisconsin Supreme Court's balance is up for grabs in the upcoming election. Trump's purge of federal government employees continues, with many states like Wyoming starting to realize that not all federal employees are in D.C. This will impact local economies far away from D.C. In cultural news, another judge has issued a pause on Trump's order prohibiting gender-affirming care. Trump banned the AP from certain locations because they aren't playing along with renaming the Gulf of Mexico. Trump is trying to get rid of the T in the LGBTQIA+ story of Stonewall. Go ahead and Google Stonewall and tell me how that story happens without the T. In science news, Trump administration is firing lots of people who work on infectious diseases and those known as disease detectives. Let's see if there's any other science news that might inform us whether or not that's a good idea. The West Texas measles outbreak has doubled in size. It's now the state's worst measles outbreak in 3 decades. Some estimates are suggesting that hundreds are infected. When's spring break? There are TB outbreaks in Nebraska and Kansas. You probably also want to Google bird flu in your state. March 13th and into the morning of the 14th will bring us a lunar eclipse visible from the lower 48. In economic news, the Buffett indicator hit an all-time high of 209%. During the campaign, Trump said, "When I win, I will immediately bring prices down." Economists laughed and said that wasn't how this worked, and that his policies would make things worse. Spoiler alert, he didn't, because that's not how things work. Also, inflation is up. In Oddities, social media posts are circulating in right-wing circles, claiming various young progressive politicians are worth millions. They aren't. The posts are lies. Trump posted to social media demanding that Reuters return $9 million they were given to help counter social deception. He called it radical left. The money was awarded under him last time. On to the Q&A. Why can't you people believe that we're okay with the price increases the tariffs will cause? Because you were so upset by the inflation that it caused last time. You voted the guy who caused it back in. And seriously, we are never going to believe it, because anytime somebody talks about making sure fast food workers get a living wage, you whine about a nickel more for your cheeseburger. I just want to give you something fun. What do you think about the dude sphere declaring Anne Hathaway is mid? I know straight women who dream about Anne Hathaway. Can you do something on the proposed cuts to veterans' benefits? It looks like you have to rate 50% to get any disability payments. So those are still proposed, and they'll fine-tune them, but yes, as soon as they're a little firmer, we'll go over them all. I think the disability threshold has already been reduced from that, but yeah, indications are that there are steep cuts on the horizon, and we will go over them. Can you explain what PPI is? Because my financially minded friends are freaking out, and I don't really understand why it matters. PPI is the Producer Price Index. Consider it the wholesale inflation gauge. So, hypothetically speaking, it goes up by 0.2%. You can expect consumer inflation, which is what most people look at, to go up next, normally by more. And it's not hypothetical. It went up by 0.2%. I just finished watching this week's Interstate News. It's making me wonder if we get through all this time, even if the tariffs were lowered, even if somehow we fixed all of this, and the bird flu ended, is there any way for prices to actually drop once they've been raised any significant amount? I mean, the reality is, why would corporations bother to do that if they're bringing in money? Honestly, how are we going to move forward when we know that our checks aren't going to get bigger, but we can see how much more we're going to be spending? Even if everything works out the best it can, and I don't see that looking great in the next 4 years, what's it going to look like on the other end? So generally, no, prices don't come down much, if at all. And if they do, it can trigger a deflationary spiral, which is also bad. And historically, paychecks do catch up, but the trend seems to be that it takes longer and longer. So, okay, so realistically, how likely is it that the rest of NATO make it a shell and redirect their funding efforts to a NATO minus the U.S.? There's actually a video already recorded on this that should be coming out today, as long as nothing major happens. So, that looks like it. A little more information, a little more context, and having the right information will make all the difference. Y'all have a good day.